All right, says we're live. Hey, everybody, Silverback here. And today on the podcast, we got my good friend here, Kevin Dixie, the real NOC. Kevin, introduce yourself to everybody. I know there's a few people out there who already know who you are, but just in case anybody doesn't know who you are, which that's probably few and far between by now, because you've definitely made a big name for yourself.
Brother, I'm humble, man. You're too kind. I'm just a guy, man. I'm just civil rights activist, advocate for human rights in general, firearms instructor, self-defense coach, father, life coach, soon to be author, and just a bringer of a message that is unfiltered. I like to say I'm just a guy, man. So I've had the pleasure of being on, you name a big show and TV and the covers of magazines and all that good old jazz. But to me, I'm just a man that was put on earth to try to make it a slightly better place. I'm just trying to do that job. That's it. That's all. That's all. That's who I am.
Right on. I definitely see your vision. I see where you're heading. And I got to say, I like where you're going with things. I've seen some of the things you've done in the past, especially going to the schools and taking time out with children and teaching them, safety and what community is all about and everything like that. That's part of your Aiming for the Truth program that you have.
Oh yeah. So that's my community outreach. Aiming for the Truth is it's my life's book. Right. So I was doing Aiming for the Truth outreach work since I was 14. Now, I can't promise you I knew what the hell I was doing. Okay. I was just out there trying to be a kid, trying to make a difference. But I am from the inner city of St. Louis. I'm from one of the worst cities in the country, from the worst side of the city. And that drew me to understand, if you get past all the politics and all those things, when you just cut right down to it, that there are a lot of different factors that cause human beings to be violent, right? And a lot of that is just lack of information and education and guidance, right? So I try to go back out and fix the things that I believe from personal experience cause people to be violent. And that could be mental illness. I mean, we openly talk about that and how to deal with that. And I often tell people, like, right, if you, I don't remember if you remember a few years ago, might have been longer. I believe Chicago had a higher murder rate than, was it Afghanistan? Right. So what I was trying to convey to people then is, okay, if we can send, let's just say, an 18-year-old kid over to the sandbox and he's there for 4 years, just make it easy. So for 4 years, he sees some stuff, he comes home and he needs America's help dealing with, some of the trauma, right? PTSD. And I'm not saying that that's not valid, and we absolutely should be helping those boys and girls to circle back home. Right. But what I want to point out to people, though, is if they can go over at 18, spend 4 years there, and come home and need help, what happens to the young men and women that grew up in it every single day? What are they experiencing, right? What's their trauma? And a lot of their trauma goes unaddressed. And then when you see me with the kids in schools, that's doing several things. Hey, I just love kids. It's all about, giving back to them, being a part of their lives. It is a thing that I can't ignore, that we do need to work on having more positive role models for a lot of children. So I like to go in and do that, and then provide them education outside of the school books when it comes to who they are, history, and things like that. And then just be a good part of them, from donating clothes to feeding families. It's not about just being a gun guy. It's about making sure that you're a part of the inner fabric of society and let them know you care about them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to me, being a responsible 2A citizen community member is definitely more than just about being a gun guy. I mean, like you were saying last night on Hank's show, it's all about a mindset, and we have to change everybody's mindset and make everybody. I wouldn't say really make them, just let them see the light, let them see that there's things out there that are better, and everything just doesn't have to be negative. There's more positive that can be had if you let yourself get into that mindset. So
absolutely.
Right. So were you ever in the military?
No, man, I never I never got a chance to serve. It's kind of a regret too, but where I came from, because I wanted to, but And I have no idea why. Don't ask me why. I just did. I think I wanted to drive a tank. I just think that was like a thing I wanted to do. And from where I was at, we didn't. The saying was, "Don't go from one war to another."
Right.
Right. So it was more of a. It wasn't against not serving. It was against you survived one war. Just go live. Right. So I never did. I did take the ASVAB, and apparently I remember taking the test and getting a score. And I was gonna sign up for the Air Force actually, and it just never manifested. It just never. I don't have an excuse. I just went off to live life. I went to work a job and get an apartment and just try to live. I was so happy to be out of the gutter. I just wanted to go live and experience life. So I never did, man. But I do. I'm kind of envious of the people that got to, and not for the reasons that folks think, man. I'm just jealous they got to do all that damn travel, right? Like, like, and if you take obviously the fighting and conflict is part of it, but if you take that out, like I tell my son now, it might not be the number one choice for you as a person, but some of the perks, and I don't pretend to be an expert at it, but some of the perks of, free college and getting to travel the world and having some of your expenses covered, seems kind of cool. But I guess the first round that goes by your head, or the first IAD that goes off on the side of the road, you might not care about all that stuff at the time, but no. Right. But no, kudos to the men and women that do serve, and I've never had the pleasure.
Yeah, it definitely takes a certain kind of person to get in there and do that, especially the ones who go to war and come back and they're fighting for our country, they're fighting for our freedom. So I definitely give them a big prop as well. My uncle was in the Air Force from the time he was 18 till the time he retired, and he wanted to continue to serve in the Air Force. He went back to work for him as a civilian. On word of his commanding officer, it was just like, look, you've done all you can do. Come back to work with us as a civilian. That way we won't have to ship you off. But yeah, the whole thing about the travel, I know what you're saying, because he would always tell me stories about all the different places he'd been and everything all around the world. Same with a lot of friends of mine. And I live in Virginia, and we have strong military presence here. And when I was living down in Virginia Beach, I got to meet a lot of people in the Navy. And I've heard a lot of stories about travel and places they've been. And I've heard a few stories about some war stuff. But I'll tell you, after there was a program that was running on the Discovery Channel where it was actually videotaped, the soldiers recording their scenarios in war over there in Iraq. And I got to tell you, man, that really does make you think. You're out there and they're telling these stories about their brothers laying in the middle of the battlefield getting shot at, and they're just trying to scoop them up because they're still alive, and bullets and bombs are everywhere. That's a pretty scary thought, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So
no doubt.
I was actually reading John Crump's interview with you in Ammo Land, and I came across something I didn't know about you, but I was pretty surprised, and I believe that's probably where a lot of what you're doing now stems from. Was you joined the police force when you were 21?
Yeah, so I worked for the St. Louis City Police Department. I was assigned to a division called prisoner processing. So across the country, I think most people associate the title with jailer. I think that's probably what most general people call it across the country. But yeah, that's what I did. I did that for 10 years with the city PD.
Oh, wow. And that's what also, from reading the article, got you into guns. I mean, you knew about guns before, but that's what got you to this level and wanting to be a trainer the way you are now, right?
Yep. I went up to the department. I was actually working for a cable company, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I want to do something different. I was still a kid, man. I think I was 21. Excuse me. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have a career change. And when I first got there, it was kind of funny. I remember walking in and the Sarge was like, head to the Sally Port. I'm like, all right. I'm still in, whatever clothes and civvy clothes. And I'm like, all right. They're like, all right, get in the back of the van. This ain't the way this is supposed to work. Like, I'm not, what? And they wound up taking us down to the city academy, the firing range. And I get out and I'm like, all right, I don't know what this place is. Clearly it's involving guns. All right, whatever. And I walk in, I'm like, well, duh, dummy, you do work for a PD. You probably do take some firearms training, right? So I go in there, go into the room, and done. As soon as I opened the door to the classroom and saw those guns, 21-year-old kid, been around guns, never been around guns in a professional, right? So I get in that room and I see all these guns, and I'm done, man. I can't even talk. I'm like, all right, whatever's about to happen, I want all of it. And we went out there, and I was a student on the range that was, they were like, all right, stand like this and shoot like that. I'm like, all right, but why? Why does the bullet go bang? What's making it go bang? Why am I holding a gun like this? Who made this gun? How long has this gun been around? How many other guns do we have? Is this the gun I'm going to be carrying? And at first it was really, really annoying to the range master. But I broke him down and I just started stalking him, man. I just want to know everything. Because you're right, that's that student that can test you, but at the same time, you pray for students like that, right? You're like, all right, you want the student that's like the infant stage. Like, why do we put the thing in the thing and it go boom? Why does that happen, right? Who designed that? Where do I keep the things? How can I reload the things fast? How do we fight with these things? Is it more than just squeeze? I mean, I was all over the dang on place. And after a while, it became me kind of stalking everything gun, learning from those guys. I became friends with a lot of the HRT dudes, and they would let me every now and then go out and play with them a little bit. Definitely got a chance to touch and feel on toys that other people didn't, right? Like Patrolman didn't have MP5s, but I was cool with some of the HRT boys, so I got to touch the MP5 things, and just really start having a good time and learning everything about it. And after about 6 months, I was just like, all right, I'm hooked. I'm hooked, and I just ain't no turning back.
Yeah. Is that where your love of HK came from, was playing with the MP5s?
Yep. Yep.
Like, I know you're a big HK guy.
Man, and the MP5 is my absolute favorite gun. Absolute. The MP5. It is my absolute favorite gun. It just holds a special place in my heart.
I mean, it's a cool little gun, man. Were those fully automatic MP5s that you got to play with?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that makes it even better, because that's authentic right there.
Yeah, and my dumb butt thought that not knowing, just when I got to shooting it, I'm kind of like, oh, cool. So all guns, even though technically that's not a say it's a rifle, not a rifle, whatever. But at the time, I'm thinking that anything we go pick up off the wall in my naive state, right, even from a gun store that's that size or bigger, had the giggle switch too. And it wasn't until I actually started going into gun stores that it smacked me across the face like, nah, you just got to really be a part of a special club there. I'm like, okay. Which is why now, even when people are like, you can just go in and buy these fully automatic death machines, I'm like, I learned that 20 years ago that you can't do that. This all of 5 seconds of trying, and you will know that is not factual. But no, MP5 is absolutely great, and that is where my love for it came from.
Well, to your point there, that's just like a lot of people nowadays thinking that, oh, I could just go online and have that gun delivered to my door. That doesn't happen. And I've seen in some Facebook groups, some new gun owners coming into some of these gun groups and asking those very same questions. What's a good place to buy a gun online? Just thinking that, hey, it's going to be shipped right to my doorstep. I mean, my advice to them always is, and I haven't been in guns that long. I've known about guns for a long time, but where I come from, I grew up in Massachusetts, and, guns were kind of always a taboo thing up there. We were always kind of under the impression that guns were for either cops, military, or the bad guys. That's kind of the world I grew up in. And I seen a lot of bad guys where I grew up, a lot of gangs and gang violence and stuff like that. So with all these new gun owners coming into things, my advice to them always is go to the gun store, pick up a few guns, hold them, make sure they feel good in your hands before you think about purchasing one, because you don't want to just purchase something on a whim that somebody says, well, this is the greatest gun on earth. This is the one you want. You might buy that gun online, have it shipped to an FFL, go pick it up and regret buying it because it doesn't feel good in your hands. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
I just tell people all the time, man, like, first things first, get with someone who, and I guess it's hard for people that don't really know someone, because you don't, if you know nothing about cars
Mhm.
and somebody comes and starts just telling you whatever about cars and they're talking fast, you're going to believe they know everything. You're going to take their advice.
Right.
But so the same thing with guns. My thing is for people, seriously, you should look for a local instructor, right? Like the thing about a good quality instructor, they will make sure that they tailor fit the experience to you, for you, in the gun or guns, the options that go with your lifestyle, right? So I often tell people you never buy a gun for the day or tomorrow. Always buy a gun for 5 or 10 years out. Here's why. Most people, even though, gun guys like to have a good time about it, most people aren't gonna, be going out buying 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 guns. It's probably not, right? Um, which is cool. But so if they go buy this, let's say it's one, a Glock 42, right? Nice little 380 pistol. Um, it's great. But then you have to ask them, okay, so this gun works for you right now. Let's talk about your finances. Are you going to be willing, if your interest of what you want to do with the gun changes? So example, right now I just want to be able to defend myself from, a robber, right? Okay. Well, that's going to involve a little bit of training eventually. So yes, we can bring you in with your single stack 380, and we can get you trained, and we can show you how to work and operate that firearm. Great. Might you want to do more training in the future of a different caliber, different level? Might you want to now start carrying this gun on you every single day? Are you going to need this one gun to do everything well, home defense, as long as protecting yourself out in the world? So you have to start really having a conversation with an individual, and then you can start helping them buy for the future. So instead of the Glock 42, maybe we get you into the Glock 48. I'm throwing some out there, right? So we get you into that because you might not think it's the right pick for you now, but trust me, in a year, you're going to thank me because you're going to be like, oh, great, because now I want to do this other thing and I don't have to worry about being financially limited, right? Or my gun can't make the cut because you can't bring, much as I love the little Glock 42, you can't bring that into my Evolve One pistol class. It's not, it's not what those, you just don't, right? So you need something that can really grow and manifest with the desires and the future abilities or potential future abilities of the shooter. So it's important to get with somebody that is more concerned about you as a student, as somebody seeking new information, as somebody looking for help, and that cares about everything. Right? Like people are like, you buy once, cry once. Look, man, money is a real thing, and money is not all that available to a lot of people. I think Americans kind of lie about their amount of disposable income, right? But still, money is I complain about disposable income, but then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy a rifle today. Yeah, clearly I got a little bit of room to play with, right? And I think most Americans do in one way or the other. However, we tend to spend our resources on what we really like, right? Like you might be like, man, I'm really broke, and if you like blades, but they got this sale on this nice knife, I'm going for it, right? And I might not be the biggest knife dude, but if you put up I might be a holster collector, and if you put up a nice vintage holster, I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to get that even though I'm broke. So people spend money on what they care about, and everybody's not going to be in love with the gun like that. So we need to make sure that we're looking out for everything about that individual, as somebody that we're hoping will become more of a integrated part of the community and doesn't have limitations with the tool. Because we all know, man, guns are like cars. As soon as you take them off the door, you take the car off the parking lot, your value's gone. And good luck going back to the shop talking about trading it in. Hey, you trade it in, okay, sure.
Yeah,
But
trade it in and give us a little extra on the side there, and we might come up with a deal.
yeah, so I think that it's important for people to seek out an instructor. And it might be an instructor that's already at the facility. It might be a salesperson that you really have a close-knit relationship to, right? So the person could already be at the facility. I just don't want people to constantly go out with their cousins and the boyfriends and things like that, because what happens is bias starts to play a part of it, right? Oh, we're only gonna, and I mean, I've worked counters for a long time. I've been all around the country, and it's all the same. It doesn't matter where people come from; they all talk the same. they come in, you get the guy coming in, especially the boyfriend or the dad or the brother. You get them coming in. Woman's like, you know, kind of just walking behind with this real like skeptical look, just trying to figure out what the scene is. And they're like, all right, yeah, we're here for a gun for her. She need a, you know, a Glock 19. And I'm always like, well, okay, how did you come to that conclusion? Because I like it. Oh, because you like it.
Right.
Okay, that's cool. So people always want to put their bias in. So just find somebody that is more concerned about you, that wants to listen to your story. Man, look, it takes me sometimes, it could take me to talk to somebody. I might be 15 minutes in just to a conversation, learning about who they are before we ever start talking about a gun. Because that's going to help me choose the gun, right? If I'm talking to a, you know, let's just say a single, I had actually, real story, I had a single dad back up in St. Louis. Real nice guy, man. He's got 3 kids. He's raising them on his own. And he makes good money, but he's got 3 freaking kids that he's raising on his own, right? So he comes in and he's like, hey, man, look, I'm on kind of a fixed income here. But, you know, this is what I want. This is what I need. And I'm like, all right. So he wanted all the bells and whistles, but he only wanted to spend $350 on the gun.
Right.
Like, brother, not for all the bells and whistles. Now we can get you something decent, maybe. And so after coaching him and talking to him, I got him into a Canic, you know, TP9, and kind of got him steered away from all his buddies and friends. We're talking about Glock this, Glock that. But then when he started talking, he's like, all right, well, how much for a Kydex holster? He knew what Kydex was. I'm like, well, that's going to run you anywhere between, you know, 50 to $100, depending on what you want. He was like, all right, I don't have enough money for the holster. I'm like, okay, well, the Canics come with a holster, so you can use that one temporarily. He was like, all right, I'll do that. And then he was like, well, hold on. So if I spend money on a gun that already comes with a holster, you know, why would I ever get rid of that holster? Why would I start saving up money? And so I had to go through that whole conversation about be careful about when stuff is free, you know, because it's free for a reason. I love Canic the gun, but those holsters, nah, bruh. So just kind of walking them through that. But that led to another 20-minute conversations just about Kydex. But you know what wound up happening? That dude comes in the store now, and he'll see other people walking up and down the counter, and he knows more about considerations of what to buy with guns, or how to buy a gun, what to consider, what guns come with what, where he's that customer now. And when he goes in the range, he's actually like the salesman on the customer side. So he's actually like helping people. So just really get involved. I know it was a roundabout way of answering a question, but just really get involved with folks, see what they need, see how you can help them. Don't put your own bias in there. I don't like CZs. I'm not gonna let you buy a CZ. I don't like this gun. You can't buy that gun. Or my wife had that gun and it sucks. You can't. It's not about you, man. It's about them.
Right, exactly. And that's why I always say, you know, when somebody says, well, yeah, I'm thinking about buying a Glock as my first gun, I'm like, well, have you ever picked one up? Have you ever held one in your hands? You know, me personally, I don't like Glocks because I don't like the way they feel in my hand. The trigger guard rubs on my knuckle, and it's just uncomfortable for me to shoot. So I won't hold a Glock. I can shoot them, and I can shoot them damn well. And they're good guns, but just not good for me. So I tell everybody, like, pick up a gun, feel it, ask questions about it. Make sure it's comfortable in your hand. Make sure it's something you feel comfortable holding, because if you're not comfortable holding, you're not going to be comfortable shooting it. It's like a pair of shoes. If you have a shitty ass pair of shoes on your feet and you're not comfortable in them, you're not going to be a comfortable person. You know? So to me, it's kind of the same theory. You know, you get what you pay for sure. You know, there are some lesser expensive guns that are still good quality guns that could work for somebody, like you said with this guy in his situation where he just didn't have enough money to spend on the Cadillac or whatever. But it's not always the Cadillac that we need. So again, like you said, it's really, when I was searching for a gun and trying to get into guns, I went to the shooting range and I talked to many of the range safety officers and all kinds of stuff like that. They had different guns that you could rent. So I tried several different kinds that day. I mean, I was there probably about 2 or 3 hours just trying out different guns, you know, just so I could figure out what I wanted to buy for my first gun. I wound up with a SIG, which I got to say, very impressed with it. And I do like that gun, and I can do a lot with it. But I do things probably a little different than most people would, because I don't do it based off of, like you said, somebody else's opinion, somebody's bias. Because when I started talking to people about guns, everybody was raving on Glock this, Glock that, Glock 17, Glock 19. Oh, yeah, that's what you want. That's what you want. I'm like, well, how do you know what I want? I mean, I've never tried one, so why am I going to say, okay, yeah, I'm just going to take your advice and go get something that I might not be happy with? You know,
Yep.
it's like you were saying. Yeah, it's like you were saying when you went into the instructor school at your police academy. There, you were constantly asking why. Why is the greatest question in the world, because that's where all of our information stems from. If we don't ask why, we're not going to get the proper information.
Very true.
So let me give a shout out to some people out there. We got some people out there in the audience. We got my brother Chico Wise from the Dirty South. He's actually a big fan of yours, KD. He lives down there in Georgia, pretty close to where you just moved to. We got Christian Grest out there, Armed Ape, another good, that's my Simeon brother right there, Mr. Armed Ape. Great guy. Shooting Gallery NE, DC2 Mega Boost, John Voorhees, Gun Wild One. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing tonight? I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Gun Wild One says hashtag CZ Life.
Nothing wrong with the CZ, man. I'm actually starting to become a real big fan of this P10C.
Yeah. A friend of mine bought a PO7, and I'll tell you, I enjoy shooting his gun when he comes over here. It is a nice gun. Gun Wild One and myself, we have several similar friends that they're big CZ guys, and they have quite a few different CZs. So that's where that hashtag CZ Life comes from. So how about the state of the world today? What do you make of that?
With riots and all that stuff.
Yep, all this COVID and.
Well, the COVID thing, you know what, man? The way I look at the COVID is this: I try not to get lost in all the numbers, because depending on what source you pull it from is all different. And I hate that. I hate that people just can't just give us the facts, right, without some kind of influence behind it. But COVID is definitely a real thing. Now, if you think it's being underplayed or overplayed, is up to each individual's interpretation. But it's definitely a real thing, and I think that everybody should just definitely, be safe. The cool thing about it is I think that we should be extra cautious, or people that have different ailments. They're more susceptible to some of the more serious side effects of COVID. Obviously, they should be very careful. And everybody else, just know, if you do take care of yourself, if you do contract it, I believe one thing everybody's agreeing about, survival rate is well over 99%. If you just, rest up, take some meds, whatever the case may be. So be cautious. I still think that you should live life. I don't know if I will be going to a concert right now,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to be necessarily scared to go out and maybe grab a bite to eat, or, do something, go to the park with the kids. Like, I'm not going to hide. But definitely be careful and be cautious, and try not to let the media and everything that the news is saying rattle your brain and have you arguing about it, because ultimately it is what it is. My biggest problem with COVID, besides the medical consequences, is the fact that it keeps interrupting the world. Like, you can't plan nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So, but other than that, nah, man, I don't get riled up about too much. Everybody do what's best for you. Do what's best for your family. Obviously, if you have people that, if you bring it home, are more susceptible to, fatality, maybe, then you'll be extra cautious. But other than that, man, live life, be safe. If you do get it, take care of yourself, isolate yourself. I think they said isolate yourself for 10 or 14 days or something like that.
Right.
So isolate yourself, play a little PlayStation, not Xbox, PlayStation. Play a little PlayStation and relax. That's how I feel about COVID. And then we'll see what happens. I know what is it, hydrochloroquine or whatever that crap.
Yeah, hydroxychloroquine. Yep.
Yeah, that stuff. Like, so I know that stuff's going around. And you know what? If you have a doctor that believes that and you believe it and it gets you better, bless you.
Mhm.
If you have a doctor in you that don't believe in it, then don't do it. You know, I don't know. I think everybody always wants to jump to a side, and sometimes you just don't have to. Like, all right, I'll keep watching this thing and doing what's best for me and mine. And I think that's how everybody should play.
Right, right. Yeah, get the information and think for yourself. Formulate your own opinion on it. I was speaking with a gentleman earlier about the same thing, and he said he believes that a lot of it, even though the virus is real, yes, everybody, I believe everybody, we can all agree on that. But it seems to be a lot more politically driven than anything right now, really. I mean, this is definitely has to be the most politically driven pandemic in the world history. So, you know, uh, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Politics is poison, man. It's
I
poison for
agree.
everything.
I agree 100%. I'm tired of hearing about politics, because it doesn't seem like the politicians are in it anymore for bettering the country or helping we the people or any of that. It just seems like they're in it for their own pockets.
You know, one thing that's really hilarious is Donald Trump. Is he a licensed medical professional?
No, definitely not.
Is Joe Biden a licensed medical professional?
Joe Biden is licensed a medical dementia man. That's about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not lying about that. So the reason I asked that question is because people are so hyped up in political tribalism that what Trump says must be true about your health.
Right.
If you like Biden or anybody else on that side, whatever they say about your health must be true. I'm like, guys, are you really that naive? You at the end of the day, our most lovable politicians that maybe started off with some of the greatest intent, you know what they are at the end of the day? They're politicians.
Right.
And they're going to look out for self. I mean, even with Trump came out and said pretty much, hey, man, screw those masks. Stupid. They don't work. Then we see Trump with mask on.
Yeah. It's patriotic.
So, I'm like, guys, and I'm not saying that you are foolish for liking a person, but even if you like me, I don't expect me to just be standing up and be able to say, hey, man, you know what? I know the cure for cancer. Go drink some antifreeze and gargle with some Listerine, and trust me, it'll go away. And you're like, well, Katie knows his gun stuff. Let me go do that. Like, no, like, don't do that, right? Like, so we have to break away from that that tribalism mindset, and we have to separate from, yes, I might like a person, and that's fine, right? But I don't need to just follow everything they say without looking at the world for myself, because sometimes you have to critique the one that you trust the most. That be the person that you have to go to and challenge. So, man, just that to me was one of the saddest things with this whole COVID thing. I'm literally looking at people. Oh, so you're going to decide on your medical health based off the way that you vote?
Right.
That's stupid. Okay. And leave them alone.
Yeah. And where in the Constitution does it say that the government has the right to interfere with our medical well-being, So,
Yeah, I know they convinced me with that rumor they were going to go around and forcibly, when they get the vaccine, they were going to make you take it, and if you didn't, I forget that doctor. I was watching them, and if the state can come into your home and they can absolutely inject you with it or confine you to your home until you're willing to take it. I'm like, you know what? I try not to talk too much stuff, but let me tell you something. You come into my house talking about sticking anything in me, I'm gonna stick some in you, and that's just the way it is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, definitely that forcing it on people, that is communism 100%. I mean, this is not a communist country. We are a republic. Our founding fathers set it up for freedom, specifically so we wouldn't have to deal with stuff like that. And for them to say that they're going to do that goes against the foundation of freedom, the foundation of what this country was meant to be. Yeah, sure, it didn't start out perfect. It's still not perfect. But if we could take what the foundation of it was and just take the simplicity of it, we can work something out to where it would be much better than it is and has been.
You know what, man? I tell people all the time that in general, we the people is an awesome concept. If you
Mhm.
really just sit back and simplify that, we the people is great. It really is. You know, it's not them, the government. It's we the people, right? And we the people are all type of folks. You know what the problem is? We the people are victims of our own circumstance. We've empowered these political overlords so much, right? Think about everybody's like, oh, the Democratic Party, for example, is takes the black vote for granted. Okay, what the hell do you think the Republican Party does with the white vote?
Oh, they take it for
Like,
granted.
like they all take us for granted. You
Rep.
know what I mean? It's all the same, right? Or they say, oh, well, you know what? I know what to bring them around. Let me throw out these couple of key phrases. Say that I hate this person. They're right back on board, right? So they're playing us all, and then we the people, instead of looking at each other, being like, well, you know what, man, I get that you like person ABC, right? You know, I just have a lot of concerns about that guy. Here are my concerns. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you, without talking points, just it's me and you, man. It's not the world. Can you just tell me or have a rebuttal to these talking points? Because maybe you got a point, or maybe I can expose you to some BS. And we the people should be able to talk about that. And if we come to a conclusion that a politician is wrong, then we the people should be able to go after that political party, that structure, or whatever it is, or that individual, and address that. But we don't. You know what we start doing? We start looking at each other, figuring out, first of all, how we gonna argue about politics. 2, we collectively like to assign people a political identity. Yes, collectively we do. Maybe not as individuals, but collectively we like to assign people a political identity. I got so many people that are like, I'm really confused about what political party you belong to. I'm like, I've never said I belong to any political party. Well, you like guns. That's a political thing? I don't know. Yeah, I think if guns weren't political, we'd be in a much better place with them, right? Like they shouldn't be a political thing.
Right.
You want to raise your family. That seems to be a conservative value. Well, I don't think that anybody should be against raising their family and you know, taking care of them. But then you do all that community stuff. That's more of a left-leaning type of thing. All that touchy-feely, you know, community, humanity crap. I'm like, okay. So what are you? And I always respond, I'm an American, man. Leave me alone. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. As long as you understand one key principle. I'm about all my freedoms as long as they don't impact yours. That's it. Right. But why do we have to? We naturally want to box people in. And then when we get done with all the political assignments, we want to start having these conversations about everything else that separates us. You can get into, you know, economics, racial issues, especially the denial of some of the systematic things that have been happening in this country. And you get into all these different things. And what we the people don't do is, A, we don't have empathy and sympathy for our fellow American. We don't. You know what we do? If it's a black dude that's complaining about something going on in the black community, people will respond with, well, you're the one that voted the demo rats in the office, and 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murders. And I'm like, that is so stupid when you're talking to an individual who's trying to have a conversation with you. And then if that individual rebuttals back with, yeah, but can I ask you a question? I'll ask you a question right now. I'm just trying to help people have realistic, healthy conversations. Throughout the history of the world, do you believe that there have been social experiments with human beings?
I think it's very possible. I think it's very
Up?
possible. Say that.
Classism. All right. So my question, I mean, we can look at whatever country and you can always find a people that were treated different, right? So when people respond with, well, it's 13% and they're doing this, I'm like, all right, well, it helped me understand how the United States of America, the government, especially, it's not the everyday citizen, it's more of a government thing, how they set the Black community up. And then you can toss in poor people too, just throwing all poor people, how they set them up into these environments, because poverty is going to breed crime. I don't care where you go and who you are, right? And it's like, so, okay, if you're talking about overall community of people, let's be very honest, dude. You understand it was just maybe about 40 years ago, arguably you can say probably maybe 35 years ago, when it like really kind of died down, that I could eat in any restaurant you could.
Right.
That's not that long ago.
No, it's not.
Right. But you know what happens when you're, excuse me, what happens when someone with that story in America comes to their fellow brethren and say, well, yeah, man, but this is it's a setup, right? And I could tell you about like the Lewiston homes. So there was this community of 17,000 homes, right? But single family units, right? And it was backed by the Federal Housing Administration. Don't quote me. I think it was like the 50s, 60s, 70s. 17,000 homes. They started at 7,000 and they capped off for a really nice home at 10,000. All right. And most people that were of working class could afford those homes back then. Well, the FHA, the federal government, put a clause in all the deeds of the homes that stated that you could not sell, lease, or rent a home to any Black or African American. Now, here's the part of it that gets interesting. Oh, sorry. This congestion is killing me. What wound up happening is that those people that were able to invest, say that $10,000 to one of the really, really nice homes, those people were able, fast forward, those homes now go for anywhere between, you know, $300,000 to $400 and some odd $500,000, same homes. Well, look at what all those families were able to do with all that extra equity that they pulled out. What other investments can you make? What other property can you buy? What other great things can you do if you spend 10 grand on something and now it's worth 500,000, right? In a matter of 40 years, right? So when you have limitations like those things that are happening, and still when people went to go resell the homes, they were still told that you couldn't, by law in the deed, that you can sell it to African Americans. Those documents are actually still in effect today. They're just unenforceable. Nobody will actually enforce them. So like when you're trying to have a conversation with your fellow American about, look, man, I'm just trying to let you know things from my side and what we see. I'm not out here yelling. I'm just out and trying to have a conversation. And well, you get hit with the 13% of the pop. Okay, you know what happens? We the people done. I'm done talking to you. Right. I'm done talking to you. I'm not, nope. And then what happens is we get on Facebook, Instagram, and we start fighting. Right? Because we're too close-minded. Be no different. If a white guy comes up to me and he's like, man, but do you understand some of the things that you know the government has done to the white people? I'm like, and if I say no, because I do, but if I say I don't know, and he starts telling me about it, I'm like, well, it seems like we got more of a reason to be on the same damn side.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And one of the examples I give people is that when all the the riots and stuff came up, and you had a lot of these influencers running around talking about, well, there were a total of 9 unarmed African American people killed by law enforcement, and I think it was like that year time frame in 2019 or something like that. So they said 19 unarmed white people were killed in the same time frame. So what are you guys complaining about? And I was like, hold on, let's just, for argument's sake, because one thing I'm going to tell people is just because somebody's unarmed doesn't mean they're not dangerous. All right, let's just get that out the way. However, let's just, for argument's sake, that everybody should be alive. Let's just, for argument's sake, right? Here's how we can unify instead of divide. If you went out to beat me up with a stat like that, here's my rebuttal. So doing your research to try to make me look like an imbecile and try to make me believe that there isn't a problem, you discovered that almost double the number of people that look like you were killed by the same people I'm complaining about. Yeah. So what's the problem? Why are you complaining? No, my question is, why aren't you? Because if you can tell me that you discovered that damn near 20 people died that maybe didn't need to, and all you're doing is yelling at me because I got to half your number, I'm like, fuck that. No, we're about to stop that. You know, like that's how idiotic people can be. Your own results yielded the fact that you're like, oh shit, maybe we do have a problem, right? Like, and I'm like, and it's not a big deal, but that's what I don't like about people when they don't want to have realistic conversations. And then when you make people look like idiots, and I look, the same thing I do to the people that want to snatch our freedoms and don't believe in your rights and stuff like that. It's public history that these people duck and dodge me. They do. And it's the same thing that a lot of your favorite influencers are doing now. Because if you were saying to people that there isn't a problem, but then you discover something that is 50% above their numbers, and you're trying to tell them they're idiots for being upset about it. Now, you might not like the way they're handling it. I'm not saying you have to, but wouldn't that be an opportunity to say, okay, guys, let's everybody take a pause, because I discovered some stuff that I didn't know. And you know what? I will give you this. If you represent 13% of the population, and I represent 74% of the population, and you damn near got to half my numbers, but you don't even represent half of the country. Okay. Well, no, but the end of the rebuttal will be, well, it's more police interactions because they commit most of the crimes. Against who? Against who? Because the same people that say, well, it's this thing about black on black crime. I'm like, I've never, except in a joke, ever heard anybody say white on white crime. No. Asian on Asian crime. Hispanic on Hispanic crime. That was some stuff that was brought up back in the Reagan era, right? So it's like, if we can get people as Americans to sit down and listen to each other, we can tap into the power of we the people. We can't tap into the power of we the people because we the people won't even come at the table and have a conversation because of our political tribalism to the ones that want to keep us divided.
Right. Everybody, a lot of people walk around with these blinders on. They get that tunnel vision and they pick a side and they stick with that side. And it's like they feel like they just have to stick to their guns no matter what. Oh, because I believe in this political party, I have to agree with everything they say no matter what. And then if you try to say something different, I have to disagree with you. And nobody can go, well, let's just open our minds for a moment and look at everything from a 360-degree angle. You got to look at it from all around it. You can't just go right straight through the middle of it every time because you're missing all the gray areas, so to speak, you know?
Yep. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a really ridiculous thing when, you know, people can't sit down and have a normal conversation about two different sides of things without arguing with each other. It brings me back to when I used to train martial arts. I used to look into a lot of the history of it. And I mean, I can't think of the word, but it was a saying that goes, the first man to raise his fist in anger is the first one to run out of ideas. And I kind of hold that with me. I probably read that saying when I was about 13 years old. And ever since then, I have not gotten into a single fight.
That's awesome.
I used to fight a lot when I was a kid. I mean, I beat the crap out of somebody if I just didn't like the way they looked at me, you know. But I realized because of that saying that I have to open my mind. I have to see where they're coming from as well as where I'm coming from.
Right.
So.
Yep, you have to. That's the only way you're going to have any kind of productivity anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how are you going to teach somebody if you can't see things the way they're seeing them, you know? Like you're out to educate people into making things better. So if you can't see from their perspective, you're not going to be able to teach them and change their mind.
Man, you want to know one of the first interesting things that I did when I think I was 16, maybe 17, and did this. My mind has always been different. I went and so I used to work for this um company. What was the name of that company? It was like one of them stupid door-to-door cleaning, all-purpose cleaning products. One of them stupid ass companies when I was a kid, right? But you know, they would drive you around all these different cities, good summer money, whatever. All right, got me out the environment. So I did it one summer. And I wound up spending a crap ton of time in trailer parks, right? And I would be inside these trailer parks, and some of the looks and were pretty nasty, but I would fight through that, and I just started having conversations with people about who they are, you know.
Right.
And I tell you, man, that's some of the best talks ever, right? And that's why I tell people I've had the best conversations I've ever had were the people I was told not to talk to, right? Because everybody has a perspective. And here I am, a guy that's from the gutter, but I'm like, shit, your trailer park don't look much better. So
Right.
who are you? What happened to you? Why are you here? All right, I know my story. Tell me yours. And that's how I started to really open my eyes up to different people and different perceptions and things like that. And that's how I can acknowledge when somebody else is being blinded, because I myself had to go do research by talking to real people. Though I don't believe in just reading something. I go talk to real people. And still, my travels to the day, I still go through tons of poor white communities. And when you really get to talking to people, and I've told several people this, say, you know what the problem is? People have convinced you when you're on your little island over here, they've convinced you that people that look like me are complaining about nothing. And then you look at how hard life is for you, and you like, I can't believe that I'm out here working my butt off and they're bitching and complaining, right? And then the people over here are working their butts off, right? But they've been told that everything with life with you is gravy because you're white, right? So everything has to be easy for you. And they can't believe you're bitching. And what you yelling at them for? Oh, damn racist, right? You know, so you get the political system keeping us apart, feeding us things, right? And then we come up with these stereotypes, and that's why, and you get it between all different cultures, classes, and all kind of stuff, right? And you just got all these cross rays of hate and misunderstanding between people, and that's why we will never come together as we the people, right? And I really wish that's what I wanted to do, and I've said I was going to do that a couple of times. I want to take mature individuals that are not from areas to those areas.
Right.
Like there have been plenty of 2A personalities that have come to St. Louis, and I've taken them to my neighborhood, and they're just like, shit, right? And it's not just riding through looking at how crazy it is. It's giving a backstory how I got that way, right?
Right.
And they're like, I never. Food deserts are a real thing. I'm like, yeah. Last time you seen a grocery store? I haven't. I know. So imagine if all your nourishment has to come from this corner store, right? With all the the foods with all the preservatives in it and all the sugary drinks. But the grocery store is, 5-6 miles away with no car. How you gonna get there? All right. So and then trying to catch the bus is hard unless you got a family of people that can help you bring all the groceries back. All right. So it's just really looking at other people's way of life, man. And understanding that at the end of the day, whether people want to believe it or not, the government, the political monstrosity that we have, they understand one simple rule. There is no money in the cure. Making us connect and making us have conversations cures things. That doesn't generate revenue. Actually, it deprives them of revenue. So they'll just keep us fighting. And then you know what we'll do? We'll keep saying the mainstream media is the devil. Well, yeah, the devil's right in your fucking face, man. You're just eating it up every day, right? No, it's crazy. I'll get off on a tangent. Let me stop.
Well, I guess that kind of goes back to the whole saying in that film, The Usual Suspects, that the greatest trick the devil ever played was to make the world believe that he didn't exist. So, it's and I've heard this from several people, and I'm not going to say they're from the greatest walks of life, if that's such a thing, but the best way to hide something is right in front of their face.
Yep.
right out in the open. A lot of criminals get away with stuff by just leaving it right out in the open. And I'm not just talking about petty criminals, peddling drugs or doing whatever. These are like the big corporations, the really super rich elite people. They're hiding that shit right out in plain sight. And people are just like, oh, well, they're big rich people. There's no way they're committing crime. Again, that's with their blinders on, because they get this mindset that because somebody is rich and powerful, that they're not going to be committing crime because they have no reason to commit crime because they have everything they want. Well, how do you think they got to the top?
Well,
Just like all this stuff that's going on with this whole Epstein thing, finally it came out, but then you got all these people who are on this list of people who visited him on his island, but yet we're supposed to believe that they just went there just to visit and see what the island was like.
I think with that one, I'm pretty well documented how I feel about pedophiles. Don't boils my blood a little bit.
Boils my blood a lot.
Pedophiles. Woo.
I see. I touched a spot with you there on that one.
Man, I don't like those people. I'm also a victim of one of them. I don't like those people. All right. So it's with the whole Epstein thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. When he first got arrested and stuff like that, like I looked at it a little bit, but I didn't become entrenched into it. And then because I can only focus on so much in life. I got a lot going on.
Right.
But then I was on a plane and I was watching the Netflix series. That was a depraved dude. Like and then I just put out the meme, like, Epstein didn't kill himself, but he should have. He should have. He's and then the people that visited the island, I think this is the part I have to be careful with. Could it have been definitely were some of those people visiting that island and participating in some of the activities? Absolutely. Absolutely. But then I have to ask myself too, what if I'm, a movie star and I don't know who this billionaire investor is, right? But he comes up to me at a movie release and is like, yo, I want to put you on a private plane and fly you out to my private island and, let you hang out there for a weekend. I'll probably go. If I don't know him or know the backstory, right? That he's a sick person. So I'm a little bit more cautious of blaming each individual that was ever seen on his flight log. Like I think somebody even said that Trump was on his flight logs, but then when they did more research, Trump went from one airport to the next and not to his island. So that's why I'm like, you got to kind of be careful with that part of it. But I would like to know everybody that went to that island and participated in those activities, and I would like to see them all brought up in front of the world. And I am very curious about why Tom Hanks renounced his U.S. citizenship and became a Greek citizen, where pedophilia is normalized.
Yeah,
that's
like that for eons. Mm-hmm. It's kind of coincidental that would happen right around this time frame with all this going on too, right?
Right. That's curious.
So what do you think about all the rioting and everything and how this all started?
I'm never ever in my heart going to be okay with things being destroyed. All right. So let's just get that out there. I can never be okay with that. I think that the rioting is
You don't agree with that? I think it was a TV reporter who said destroying things is not violence, that destroying things that can be replaced is not violence.
That's stupid. Yes, it is. So I don't even know who said that. That's dumb. But that to the side, because I don't agree with destroying stuff. Right. But that to the side, in order to really have a clear understanding of what's going on, we have to have a conversation that backdates a little bit. And there are a couple of different things that are going on, but I won't get into all the different nuances. But one, the original concept of Black Lives Matter. Now, forget, I'm from the home of where Black Lives Matter started, right? So Black Lives Matter, the sentiment is 1,000% true. And when you look at the sentiment, it is Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was very open with saying, yes, your lives matter, but your house is not on fire right now. Ours is. And we're just asking for your help putting out this fire. And it was a very open, receptive, loving thing that was only going against a system, not the everyday average American person. It was asking the everyday average American person to help bring awareness to the unfair treatment of a system. Let's just start there. It was never about my life matters more than yours, or more than his, or more than dogs, or whatever. It was all about, look, the Black lives are in trouble right now, and we just want America's help bringing attention to that. That was it. Be no different than anybody else having an issue and you want everybody to help you. No different. So what happened, and this is kind of where I separate, is BLM, the organization, the political monster that it has become, the billion-dollar generating force that has become, does not have Black lives, and it doesn't care. Black lives are the Trojan horse, and it's got everything else attached to it. People fueled up the Black lives, and they attached all their other agendas to it, and they're going out pushing those agendas. So people are like, well, screw BLM, it's a Marxist organization. It was hijacked. I can tell you that. It was hijacked. Absolutely. So, but we have to know that we're separating the two. The sentiment versus the organization, right? Now, as far as now we're still talking about the same organization that says they want to destroy the thought of the nuclear family. I'm like, that is, I can never back somebody like that. What? No, absolutely not. No. And even if you look at, if you go back to when the Mike Brown situation occurred, if you look at Black Lives Matter then, if you look at all the news reports, you had a bunch of people in different areas that were like the leads of those chapters of Black Lives Matter. Look at the circulation of Black Lives Matter now. Point me a leader out. Point me a chapter president out.
I mean, yeah, who is it? You see some faces. You see some faces on the media that are supposedly the founders of the organization or whatever, but that's about all you're seeing. Or when they do show it, they're just showing what looks like a group of little white Antifa kids running around screaming Black Lives Matter. So
yeah, and given those individuals that are opportunists the opportunity to be ignorant, because if we're talking about Black lives, and it was supposed to start with a heavy thing before, unfortunately, Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor, it was supposed to start with, a focus on Black men, and then we had those women killed, and it kind of shifted. Well, I don't look, everybody live your life, man, do you, but I just want to point something out. If the movement, if you're going to run a movement that's focused on helping people, a particular set of people, you would think that a representative of those people should be involved at the movement, right? So if I'm saying that we are trying to stop Black men from being killed, then there probably should be a Black male helping like lead the ship, right? Steer the ship, you would think. Right. But no, it's there is one Black male and two females that are the quiet heads of Black Lives Matter. And they're all, and once again, this is not a hit on them, but it just goes to show how other movements hijacked the simplicity of talking about Black Lives Matter. All of them are have alternative sex lives, right? So you got the women that are now more focused on kind of the LGBTQ movement, and then the guy also has a strong focus on that for their own, self-interest. And it's like, well, hold on. Then you add to your website that you want to destroy the nuclear family. Well, if you talk to anybody, one of the things that will help Black lives, white lives, Asian lives, whoever is having the family.
Right.
No, I can't get down with that. Not because I have anything against your sexual orientation, but you aren't focused on me. You're focused on you and your own motives, right? And then when you add that to it, then you get, some of the Antifa kids, you get all these other movements. I'm like, this ain't this ain't about people that look like me. This is about something totally different, and a lot of the totally different things. It's about the Democratic Party raising money. It's about LGBTQ rights. It's about all these other things, and I'm like, don't all these other things already have their own movements? So why can't we support those movements? Why do those movements have to hijack the one that's supposed to be about me? So that's where I got a little bit confused and I had to jump off ship. But other thing that I would say is this: we have to be careful about separating that conversation and being gentle with it, because you can easily find yourself in a fight, that you don't need to be in if you don't understand the two differences. And when it comes to the kneeling, here's the only thing I want people to think about. Do you know who Nate Boyer is? You ever heard that name?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure exactly who he is.
So everybody knows the kneeling started with Kaepernick, right?
Yep.
Now, as Americans, we're okay with protests, right?
Yeah. I mean,
we just ask that you don't block traffic and destroy stuff.
Right. Peaceful protests are perfectly fine, but when you start rioting and looting, I mean, that's no longer a protest, if you ask me.
Exactly. I'm not disputing that. So Kaepernick started off his protest sitting on the bench. Nobody really noticed it, but apparently it caught the attention of a gentleman named Nate Boyer. Okay. Nate Boyer is a former Green Beret. And Boyer somehow made contact with Cap, or whatever. I don't know if he had connections to the team or what. And he made contact with Cap, and they had a conversation where Cap informed him of what his intent was and why he was sitting down, because Boyer told him that was offensive. You are absolutely disrespecting us and the men and women that serve this country by sitting down during our anthem. Like, that is rude. That is disrespectful. So Cap said, all right, well, let me tell you what I'm trying to do, because that's not my intent. Here's my problem. This is what I am protesting. And so him and Nate have this exchange. And Nate tells Kaepernick that, well, if you're doing it for your fallen brothers, take a knee, because that's how you can show respect and still not disrespect the flag. So Kaepernick, being a civilian, had him ex-spec op dude tell him, what you're doing is disrespectful. Oh, this is your problem? Do this, and that'll fix that. And then Cap did that. And then what happened is everybody started saying that he's disrespecting the flag.
Right.
So then I will have to ask people a genuine question. If you do one thing and somebody says, you're pissing me off, don't do that. Do this. And then you do that thing, right? And then somebody else says, don't do that. You're pissing me off. Do something different. At what point do you say, fuck you?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, serious. Like, it doesn't matter what your thing is. Right. So I think that's the part that people also need to come up with. Now, do most people kneel? No, they don't. If you really look, if you take this country by a percentage and go from people that kneel versus don't kneel, there are majority of people have not taken a knee. They have not. Doesn't mean they're not in solidarity with what the overall mission is. What happened is that thing became politicized, and then once again, tribalism. Even when Nate Boyer put out an article himself saying, y'all should be mad at me, I'm the one told him to do it. Now he's disrespecting our flag. Well, if a special operator, Green Beret dude, told me do this, and then I even donated money to his charity helping veterans, because I believe that the veterans should be helped if they need medical care. So let me throw a little money over there to him too. Thanks for the conversation. I'm going to take a knee. And then America starts yelling at me, telling me I'm disrespecting the flag when I fixed what the beret told me was disrespectful to something that was respectful of the flag and my cause. You don't have to agree with it. I'm not telling you to. I'm not telling anybody to take a knee. What I'm saying is you need to understand the backstory. So when people are taking a knee and you're like, you're disrespecting the flag, you can understand why people constantly keep saying, no, we're not. No, we're not. And that's the part of the political tribalism that people are falling victim to. Conservative Party says it's disrespect to the flag. We stand, and then you start getting all these different promotional things. We stand for our country. We stand for this. And yeah, it seems great and patriotic. And then you make these individuals who are American citizens who actually started off trying to fix the disrespect look like they're anti-American. Then you sprinkle in some Antifa dudes burning flags. And then it looks like everybody that takes a knee, even if they believe in the sentiment, not the organization of BLM, is all of a sudden a traitor to the American cause. And I'm like, wisdom isn't sexy. The truth isn't sexy. And the misinformation spreads a lot faster. So I just wish people would understand those things. Then you can still make your own decision, but at least be able to understand it. So for me, I don't get all hyped up in all the political banter back and forth because I researched and understood how things started. Now, other things that man did, that whatever, that I don't vouch for people. They do their own stuff. But then when you fast forward to going from quiet, peaceful kneeling to riots, the one thing I would tell folks is we all disagree with the riots. But why do we get to the point of a riot? All right. And take away all the stats and all those things. Look at the Ahmaud Arbery thing, man. You know how many people were running around slaughtering that kid? He wasn't jogging. Maybe he wasn't. Oh, he was a criminal. He got caught with a gun at 19 going into a school. Okay. Did he shoot anybody? No, the cops chased him down and got him. What did he do after that? 3 years later, he was accused of stealing a TV out of Walmart. Man, I tell you what, this kid is a mastermind criminal. Gee, ooh, he's a scary guy.
He was the one that was caught in the construction houses, right?
Correct. And even when we looked at that, and this is where I'm saying America has a chance to actually galvanize with other Americans, and we just missed the opportunity. It was clear to me from the beginning what happened, but I had to wait for things to be verified. But we had all these people slaughtering this young man. Slaughter. And when everybody got real quiet is when the GBI investigator got on stage and got on the stand in open court and had to testify to what something William Brody said. And he said that after Travis McMichael shot Ahmaud, he stood over him and said, fucking nigger. So, and then this is a dude when they started stripping all of his social media. I guess he was in the Coast Guard. And he would say things like, my favorite part of my job is to throw no niggers around. If you see niggers in the neighborhood, let me know. All these different things. And then for his dad to testify that he never seen Ahmaud commit a crime. He testified he didn't even see Ahmaud come out that house. He just saw him running past his house. And he figured he was up to a crime and they gave chase. That was it. Right. It was also confirmed that one of those vehicles slammed into Ahmaud. They cornered him. They kept chasing him. And then when a young man gets to the point where he's like, I'm going to fight for my life. He fights. And that what we tell people to do all the time? You fight, even if you lose.
It's just a natural instinct. Yeah.
Yeah. You go out and fight. And he went out and he gave a fight and he lost, but he fought. And America slaughtered him because he had a criminal past. Right. And then when it came out that this was a modern day lynching, no apologies. No nothing.
It kind of went dark after that.
Now, wouldn't that be a great opportunity for America to slaughter the McMichaels? But you know what a lot of people would say? They want to come and say, we need more unity. If you push them on that, they'll be like, well, who's not cool with that? Well, why are you so vocal about these other things that make people that look like me look horrible? But when somebody is clearly a victim, you're kind of like whispering in the corner, oh, I was screwed up. All right, no, be just as vocal. Let me tell you something. When the Whiskey Warrior thing happened, that jerk, right? Sorry. When the Whiskey Warrior thing happened, I was, getting the reports of blah blah blah, and I did a live video, and I was kind of like, if it's really true that we got a dude trapped in his attic in New York because people were enforcing red flag laws. I hope we all are paying attention to that. Blah 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 blah. I didn't know what color Whiskey Warrior was. It didn't matter. Something bad was happening. He wound up being full of crap, but something bad was happening. And I wish that we could have more of that energy towards stuff. Everybody's like, what about Duncan Lim? Let's talk about it. Why isn't there more attention to that? But what you can't ask people to do is, oh, Breonna Taylor, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about Duncan Lim. So, give you all the support over here, but you give me none of the support over here. Like, people aren't going to do that. And that's because we, the people, haven't tapped into it. So that's why I believe we are seeing the frustration in people. And some of those frustrations are now going overboard. And then, man, to be totally honest with you, you got people out there that are not out there for any protest. They are not out there for any mission. They're just out there because there's something they can take advantage of and be chaotic.
Right.
Period.
Yep.
Period. Opportunity. That's it. Just take the guy here in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago that killed the 8-year-old girl, shot into a car with a mom and an 8-year-old girl because they pulled into a barricade.
Right.
That had nothing to do with a protest. That had everything to do with the fact that the city was on fire and you saw an opportunity to be a murderous asshole. And that's what you did.
Right. I'm thinking you're going to get
so
away.
It's multifaceted. We have to really be able to break it down. But once again, being able to have these long form conversations, be able to be mature about it, be able to have the discussions right now is not the American way.
Right. So I had a question earlier from Lawrence, Lawrence Lerwick. Mm-hmm. He wants to know what your take is on that whole Grandmaster Jay thing.
I haven't gotten into all their political standpoints, so I know a lot of people saying, "Hey, sweetheart, can you turn the light on?" People are saying various things about his political standpoint, but like I told you earlier, I like to research stuff, and I only got so much time in a day, so I don't understand the man's political beliefs. But what I can speak on is his handling of firearms and his discussion about them, because I don't have to do research. All I gotta do is see what you said, right? And I did that yesterday. I did a live video last night that kind of went over. And once again, it's not about attacking the man. It's never about attack. It's all about combating bad information because misinformation spreads faster. But I definitely think that there is tons of opportunities to get some politics aside, because once again, I don't understand his political standpoints. But there is some opportunity there for some definitely some firearm knowledge and firearm information and education. It's blatant, saying that this is StreamYard. This on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yep.
Okay, never mind. I will pull up a rifle, but if I pull up a rifle, then it's gonna cut you off. So if I got rifles sitting here right now, but I can't show them because we're on YouTube. But if I pull up the rifle and do a slam fire, you will see that the rifle won't fire. So just stuff like that we have to be open and honest and talk about. And I get it, we never should try to excuse an ND. It's not something that's cool. We also have to we got to be accountable, man. You got a Jam 22, you gotta eat that. If you got optics on backwards, you got to eat that. If you got some NC Star laser things sitting in front of your optics so you don't have a field of view out of your glass, you got to eat that. And that's not a thing against a movement. That's just, am I not supposed to say something? Like, that's
right.
So yeah, so I just think there's a lot of information there, a lot of opportunity for education and information there. I do think that people are exaggerating things slightly on both sides. And he may or may not. And once again, look, I don't have to validate anything for a man. And he may or may not say some things that tick people off. But then people have said some things that I'm reading in the comments about him that I'm like, wow, you can go look at some comments now where they're talking about, oh, why does he have on all the armor? That's not going to help with a headshot. So how many death threats? If that's just what I'm reading in my comments, what does his DM look like? Well, not in my comments, in other people's comments. So at what point do you expect the man not to become more aggressive if he's getting all these random death threats and people saying all these crazy things? Now, if he said it and they're giving him some of his energy, cool. If they're putting that energy out for each other, cool. But I think that I haven't personally seen anybody threaten any other militias that I've seen. So I don't think that we need to get in the habit of doing that. As long as people aren't hurting you, they're organizing protests, allow the militia to be the militia. Now, if you disagree with their political standpoints, you have a right to, right? But, and if they're saying things about you, like, it's like, oh, he's talking about killing all white people. Once again, I haven't done all my research, but what I have researched, I didn't hear him say, right? But let's just say in the other world he did, then I can expect some white people to have a problem, right? But if he didn't say it, let's also not spread misinformation.
Right.
So that's kind of really where I'm at with it, man. There's definitely some opportunity for growth in the handling of firearms and their political stances to the side until I know more about it and I can speak from an educated standpoint. I love to see, it would be blasphemous for me to say, just in scope of view, that I don't love seeing hundreds of Black Americans protesting with guns. Are you crazy? How am I supposed not like that? Right? So the sentiment of what's happening and what's going on is absolutely beautiful. If we can have these guys up in Michigan and Virginia doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we got these guys in these other cities doing it, and nobody's shooting at each other, and everybody's peaceful, and everybody's just, showing support for the Second Amendment and their right to bear arms. I think until you get into the nuances, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Right. If you don't know what their intent is, just don't assume for sure. The way I see it, I have a shirt that says Second Amendment, rated E for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So just like freedom, I have a saying that I put up at the end of all my videos. Freedom is for all of us, but I put the us, U.S. Freedom is for all of us. It works on so many different levels because it's part of the United States. We're freedom, and it's for all of us. Anybody who's a part of the United States, we deserve freedom. This is what we're here for, and that's what we are. There's no color involved. It's just freedom. Freedom does not see color. It is just freedom.
Okay.
So, but the whole thing, I guess he said that he wanted to take Texas and get all the white people out of Texas and just all Black people. That would be their own little country within this country.
All right. Yeah. Now that I heard. Okay. So that I did hear. Here's the thing. There are people of different mindsets that I think we generalize as separatists, right? They want to be just with people that they relate to in their own worlds, right? I am not a separatist. I don't believe in that. So even if, which we're in a total fantasy land now, even if somebody, the United States, like, yeah, we're going to give you Texas, I ain't going there. Like, I'm not going to be forced to go anywhere based off what I look like. Like, no, not. So I think that was a little extreme, and it might have actually been something that just came out of his mouth a little bit too fast.
Right.
Because all it did was rile up the boys in Texas to be like, what? All right, here come the videos, right? And I mean, you kind of got that one coming. I mean, you got to expect a rebuttal to that, right?
Right.
And then the other part of what he said, I believe he said, assist or pay for the transport of all the Black people back over to different countries in Africa. Mm-hmm. I'm a man that is that believes in African American, and I will always say African American because you got to remember we're people, most of us. People that lost our generational knowledge because a lot of people died at sea doing the slave trades and things like that. So it's part of holding on to your history. It's not being separate from the United States of America. It's just holding on to you. I expect like Irish people to do the same thing. And, like to me, it's people make too big of a deal out of it. Let people hold on to their heritage. But I was born in Missouri, so um, I'm I don't I don't know I'll go. Sure. I want to go to the motherland. That's been a big thing to do. I said I was going to do for my 45th birthday. Yeah, absolutely. And go and get into the tribal cultures and track down exactly where my heritage comes from. And absolutely, I want to do all that. But then I'm coming back home.
Right.
Because America does have its problems. Don't get me wrong. And we're going to continue to fight and fix that. But just because all the people or majority of the people look like me doesn't mean all the problems disappear.
Right.
Just get a new set of problems.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of problems over in Africa.
No, hell yeah. You know, like I tell anybody, a movie to watch is Hotel Rwanda, man.
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen that? Watch that movie. And it's not saying that there isn't conflict all over the world, not to pick on, you know, the beautiful continent of Africa, but there is. It's always easy to say I would rather go here or do that because you know it's going to be much easier. But if you ask the majority of African Americans, Black Americans, whatever you want to say, then most of us want to fix what's wrong here because where would I go? Like it starts to sound like, oh, you're race trade. It's not nothing like that. It's just you. This is home. You acknowledge history and culture. But when you're talking about uprooting people, I just moved across the country. That was hard enough. I ain't trying to move out the country. like, damn, man, that's it. So for stuff like that, and then normally the people that say that, and it's not a hit against him, but normally people that say that, guess where they're still at? Here.
Right.
Like, how much money would it cost you just to move you? And then you can say that from over there. We got the internet. You can still put up a video from over there and say, come on, y'all. We don't know. So no, I disagree with that. It's just not who I am. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to fight where I'm at. I'm going to pay honor to my culture and my heritage, but this is where I live.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to a comment that was made by my brother Mario Mosen out there. Says, look, we all get screwed in this world. It's not a race thing, guys. Believe me, after being overseas, we complain about stupid stuff. Believe me, we have it good compared to most other countries. Now, Mario, he's in the army, so he knows he's been places. So that
yeah, no
like
doubt. I mean, to say, I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off. To say that America is without its flaws that seriously need to be addressed is being blinded. But to say that America's not the best country in the world is to also be blinded. You know what I mean? Like we got America is the best of the bad. You know, like she has done some horrific things to a lot of people. And there are still things that need to be corrected. There are rights that need to be wronged. But I can say that and nobody can kill me for it. In some places I couldn't say that.
Right.
I can openly, if I wanted to, I can say, I don't like Donald Trump. Nobody can kill me for that. There are places that if I was to say something about the leader of a nation, like I am all about understanding and accepting of grace. Look, man, I am through hard work, right? It's not through handwork, but through hard work, effort, fighting, you know, bleeding. Hell, I'm halfway out of it now, but I said, you know, I was trying to rest up, but I promise you, I'm gonna play you again. I came, right? But doing all the things that I do, I would be a fool to sit here and just openly, I would be a fool to say America's perfect because it's not, damn it. And I'm not gonna let nobody pretend that it is. But I would also be a fool to say that there is somewhere else that's already set up for us to do that country is going to do 30 times better than what we have. I am sitting in a damn near 3,000 square foot townhouse. I got a 75-inch TV hanging up on the wall here. I got a few vehicles outside the drive. I got all the guns I could want in the world. Now, work hard, right? I'm able to use my platform to say what I want, be free with it. You're free to disagree, whatever the case may be. I can have conversations with whoever. I can represent the rights that I want to see in this country enhanced for people, I can tell you every damn thing in my heart that I want to be true, and I can fight for it. It ain't nothing nobody gonna do about it. But if you go somewhere else, you know, I mean, there are places I'm not. There are places you could be killed, man, just because they might be this religion and you're that religion.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so we have to, yeah, I'm with that shit. Like, we have to acknowledge the fact that it's screwed up, but it's probably the best screwed up place on the planet.
Right. Yeah. The Scotsman said, as long as Hillary ain't listening, you'll be all right.
Yeah. Hillary been hating, her handlers anyway, been hating me for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all right. As long as I don't know where the bodies are. She ain't gave me no information. But I want y'all to all bring attention to her if I ever decide to suicide myself 3 times in the back of the head. All right.
Right.
Everybody look at Hillary. Hate that one.
What you were saying, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that about the United States. Here in Virginia, I don't know how true it is. I haven't seen anything other than that. I saw in passing an article saying that our sweet governor Ralph Northam was going to make it a felony for anybody to talk bad about the government.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, y'all might want to do something about him.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying. Luckily enough, we got the Virginia Citizens Defense League here, and they're pushing a lot of stuff away. Unfortunately, some of this stuff has passed, but only a small percentage actually got passed compared to what was on the docket. So we got a lot of good people fighting for our rights down here. But as far as some of the other stuff going on outside of the 2A, we're losing a little bit of a battle on that because I don't think we have a strong enough group or backing of people that are just focusing on that kind of stuff either. We got the Virginia Constitutional Conservatives. They've got a petition out trying to get Northam, out of office, but that's going to have to happen at the polls. We're stuck with him until next year, and hopefully enough Virginians have had enough of his shit and show it at the ballot box.
Good old blackface Ralph.
Yeah, I like to call him blackface baby killer because of his whole stance on late term abortions. Or I don't know if you've seen that interview, but he was talking about how they would allow the baby to be born. They wouldn't let it breathe air yet, but they would keep it comfortable until the parents decided whether or not they wanted to keep the child, and then they would let it take its first breath. And if not, then they would just let it pass and treat it and have a funeral or do whatever they would do with it. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Okay.
Now, this man is supposedly a pediatrician, or was a pediatrician. I know when he first became governor, he had it out for the 2A right away, guns and all that crap, because he said, "Oh, well, I was a military doctor and I know exactly what bullets do to people and the trauma and the wounds they cause. Guns are not made for anything other than killing. That's it, nothing else." And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, guns can kill. Well, they can't kill. The person has to use the gun can kill. It's just a tool that makes it possible. But that's not all that they're for. Guns can save your life. Guns can save your life by getting you food. If in a time of need, say if shit hits the fan, well, you're not going to be able to go to the damn grocery store and buy a rack of ribs or whatever. You're going to have to go out and catch that food. And you can't depend on your neighbor to just say, "Hey, buddy, I got all this extra food. Why don't you come on over and I'll feed you and your family?" No, you got to look out for yourself. So you're going to need something to hunt with. Guns are fun. I go out in my backyard all the time, shoot my steel targets, and I have a blast doing it. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't think about anything in those moments. it's relaxing. I just go out there and I just think about hitting the target and hearing that steel ring, you know? So, I mean, this guy, he's just, to me, he's been off his rocker and on a power trip since day one.
Tell Ralph your black friend said he's racist.
He is very racist.
Yeah.
He tries to hide it, but
he's a bit of a jerk.
Yes, a big jerk.
These people.
Yeah. We got a lot going on down here in Virginia. We got this thing coming up on the 15th, and there's a bit of a controversy over that. August 15th, there's a BLM rally. It's the 757 BLM, and apparently a group of what they're calling themselves the Boog Boys have kind of joined in and partnered up with them. Now, this BLM, like you were saying before, they're not part of the BLM organization. They're part of the BLM, the sentiment. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe Maj Toure is actually coming down, and Devin Perkins, they're coming down to speak at this rally that's going on. So, but I've seen posts on Facebook from people in the area all worried about it, saying, well, it's going to be a violent night. And that's not what it's supposed to be about, according to the organizers of this rally that's happening. So I'm going to try to be there because I know Maj Toure is going to be there. I know Devin. So I want to try to be there to see what's happening. I want to get the information for myself to see what's going on. I'm going to try to stream it live if I can through my phone, just to see what it's all about. You know, there's another kid that's down here. He's a 19-year-old kid, and he's been pretty vocal about all the stuff that's going on in Virginia. And I think he considers himself to be one of the Boog Boys. But he seems pretty, I mean, he seems like a pretty smart, straightforward kid. And he seems pretty on board with what the 757 BLM is all about. So, and I know they've already marched with them several times in unison, and they're like, it's never been violent. We're out to make a statement, and we make our statement, and then we pack up and go home.
Yeah. So I actually heard about that when I was invited up to speak myself, but just couldn't make it. But I hope that does go well. And, you know, I hope a lot of information and education is shared, and everybody comes back knowing something they didn't know before they showed up. Be kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm interested myself to see it. I mean, I don't really get out a lot to do stuff like this because I always got to work. I got something going on. So it kind of puts a damper on my things that I personally want to do because I have to make money. We all got to survive. You know what I mean? So I'm going to try to make an effort, a solid effort to get out there and see what this is all about. Because it's interesting to me. And I think that if we as a community, like we the people, if we can all come together for a unified thought, we can actually start to make a little bit of change. So, you know, instead of sitting there going, well, automatically because of a stereotype, and to me, I think stereotypes are nothing more than a trap. But because of a stereotype, for me to think, well, they're talking about BLM, they're bad, they're Marxists, they're the wrong people to be getting in touch with. You know, I can't say that because I've never been around these people. I don't know who they are. I've never met them. So I want to get out there and see what they're all about.
Good, man. Yep. And you can formulate your own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, this whole thing, I know the guns, they've been out for a couple of years, right? The truth guns.
Yeah, came out in 2018. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what was your whole reasoning behind those guns?
Well, the Truth series was one of those things where it started off with, I had been designing my own gun, a 1-of-1, right, for a while, and taking notes, blah, blah, blah. This is what I think the perfect pistol for me would be. And it got to a point where I was almost ready to, you know, pull the trigger on it. And right when I was ready to do that, Noir dropped that Advocate. All right. So I just was like, well, I don't want to be the dude that like goes out and customs customizes his damn gun, and it looks like I'm like going anti my homie. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, all right, but then he did that, and I was like, well, all right, well, maybe I'll even consider just buying one of those. You know, like, and, you know, let me kind of look at the specs compared to what I have written down and see if it still makes sense. Well, in the process of that, Ken Scott with Prevectus Group came out with his Prevectus Elite, and somebody else I think came out with a gun, and I was just like, all right. I put up a meme on social media, and it was the Pablo Escobar meme where he's like looking real sad and like the empty pool, all right, with no friends. And I put on there something like how you feel when all your friends have signature guns and you don't, right? And it was funny, and it was meant to be funny. Then I called out all their guns and told people where to go buy them. And Wayne Hammer actually inboxed me and said, "So what are you waiting on?" I was like, "What?" Like, yeah, I've been designing a 101 gun, but he's like, no, stop playing. Let's do it. All right. I'm like, what? No, stop playing. Like, he kept kicking me in the butt. Then I was like, all right, but I can't just put out a gun. That's not who I am. Right. I could tell you exactly why, for all these different reasons with, 50, 60,000 rounds through this platform, why I want these things to change. But it just wasn't a good enough reason for me. It just didn't strike me enough. And I was, sitting down one day and I was like, well, and it's just like an epiphany. I don't know if it was God speaking to me or what, but it was like, well, combine your mission with the gun. Combine your mission with the gun, because I'm a purpose-driven type of person. And I was like, huh. So I wind up through my buddy Larry with J&L Machining, I wind up getting introduced to through Wayne, wind up getting introduced to Peter with South Carolina with Carolina Custom Phone. And we hopped on a call, and we hopped on a lot of calls, and then a lot of calls. And the next thing you know, we came up with this prototype case about Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. And then, and he was just like, just keep telling me about the stories. And so I had him using his artistic brain with what my vision was, bringing the stories to life in the foam, in the case, telling the story in artistic form. And then I had Wayne and Larry with J&L Machining bringing the tool itself to life. Mm. And you put them both together, and you got the truth. So you got a remand HKVP9. Now I would show you, but Lord knows I can't. With all the things that I think need to be done. It's not just because it's mine either, man. I'm like, it's a pretty solid piece of machine. I think the cases really set it out. And what I like to say lightly is that they're the first of their kind in history. It's never been done before.
No, I've never seen it.
You don't normally buy guns and get a reason to understand why the Second Amendment is important at the same time, in an artistic form. Like, it's not something that happens. So I like to say one thing about the truth is defeats the lies of gun control by telling the truth. And I'm telling the truth through these particular 4 stories, and I can go on and on with stories. But it's Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. We also have the East St. Louis race riots in 1923. We have the true story of the Underground Railroad, and we have the Rosewood, Florida slaughter. So those are all in the cases. Those are all what can be represented. Anybody can look up the Truth Guns on YouTube or Google, and they'll come up. But they are absolutely, I'll tell you, I've done some stuff and be like, oh crap, I could really do that better. Let me go back to the drawing board. But with those guns, it meant everything to me to put those out. And then I didn't realize until they actually debuted when I was releasing them. I didn't even realize to that day that they were the first of the kind. It didn't even hit me.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't even do it from a place of, let me do something nobody's ever done before. Right. I just want to do something that was about how I felt and how I believe the story needed to be transferred. So yeah, you can tell the story. You can expose people to the lies of gun control, expose them to history that they didn't know about in a cool, artistic form. And you can give them a machine that's going to be able to fight and fight handedly to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, it's a very nice looking gun, man, and the statements they make are very powerful for sure, man. I've looked them over. Are they still available? Can they still be
Yeah, we got
purchased
I
or?
think 19 of them left. So
Okay,
we
so they
make them
are
in
just
order. We're only
uh,
making only making a maximum of 49 of them.
okay.
At 49, we're done. So they are collector's items.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I better save up my pennies and get one quick.
Well, if you already have a VP9, then that saves you. You can also send that in and get that gun changed over.
No, I do not have one. I just
Well, you
recently
need to get a
purchased a
VP9,
cannon,
dude.
but
First of
that's
all,
about it.
you need a VP9.
I need to be B9.
Then you need to turn it from the lie to the truth.
All right.
But yeah,
Well,
I'm
yeah,
real
I
proud of
mean,
those guns, man. That's something that is yeah. Every time I look at one of them, and I look at the case, it's just like wow. And then I look at all the support and help that I got from Peter with Carolina Custom Condition 1 cases. Even Vortex jumped in. Enforce was a big help with that project. Um, Wayne Hammer, like I said before, Larry Haldenbrook with J&L Machining. I don't know if I said Peter, but Peter with Carolina Custom Foam. You know, all those different companies and guys, man, they just really jumped in and I'll be totally honest with you. All those guys took haircuts. All of them. Right? Nobody did it for the money. Now, some of the original people have had to because of different career changes. So now, if you order one of the guns, it's going to your Cerakote job and some of your framework is going to change. So we've introduced Risen Gunworks to it, and Risen does a phenomenal freaking job. He's pumped out I think 2 of them, and he does a phenomenal freaking job. And we've brought Mike with Blown Deadline in to do the Cerakote
oh,
now.
Mike,
Yeah,
yeah, he's a good guy.
yeah, Mike's a good dude.
He
So
does
he
nice
jumped in,
work.
no problem. He could have also raped us on the price, but he didn't. He stayed there. So it's good. And you look up, and I'm a dude that's I'm still like an admirer of people's works. Whether it's their ability to be artists or their gun handling skills. And it was kind of like my original squad is the bomb. Don't get me wrong. But then I did wake up one day. I was like, damn, man, is Blown dead when I started coating your damn guns? Like that, because being a guy that's looked at his work, it's like, oh shit, this is actually kind of cool. All right, putting out a memorable project, and from day one, had nothing but the best people in the country touching. All right, so I like to tell people that because you aren't getting a sloppy piece of machinery, you are getting something where we're cutting corners. And if you haven't held one of those guns, look, it's yeah, it's good, and it was fun. It was a fun process though. To becoming or being involved in the manufacturing process of a gun. I enjoyed that part of it too, man, to be honest with you. So I spent some time calling my buddies that already been there, done that, learning some different things. I now have different reasons to hate the ATF. There are all kind of stuff that I started going through and learning through that process of how to manufacture. So that was kind of cool from a business standpoint to learn that and to see just how that could go. But no, man, it's been a fun ride. The truths are they're awesome, man. They just are.
Yeah, I mean they look like incredible guns. And but back to Mike with Blown Deadline, he actually Christopher Smith, this guy I know out of Michigan, he owns a company called Poor Man's Black Rifle, um, and he had heard this story about this kid out in Colorado who actually got bullied by a teacher for wearing a Remember Benghazi shirt.
Okay.
Yeah, and this kid Chris, I know him. I know his father, his family now pretty well because of all this. I actually did a podcast with him because Christopher Smith and I can't remember who the other guy was, and then Mike got together and actually built this kid an AR and had signatures. Like he Cerakoted all the signatures of the guys, the Benghazi guys, on the AR, on the magazine and stuff. Because the kid is a phenomenal history buff. He is absolutely infatuated with the whole thing that happened over in Benghazi. Christian Peranto actually came on the show. Well, he was on the phone with us. He couldn't come on live. He was on the phone for about 30 minutes on the show. He's actually become real good friends with Carl and Chris Nance, and Chris was the kid that was bullied. And Christian Peranto, he's a hell of a guy too, man. I'll tell you what, he took him under his wing, and all the guys that are still alive befriended this kid because he was, at the same time standing up for them and what happened to them, and wants people to remember what happened to them. So, it became such a nice project. He showed us the rifle on screen, on air, and everything. And I think it's just phenomenal how people in the community just got together and uplifted this kid's spirits, because I'm sure he felt bad having one of his teachers, who's supposed to be supportive of him, putting him down and telling him that Benghazi was a joke. It was all a lie. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You don't do that to a kid, man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I guess he was doing it not in like even a nice demeanor. He was really mean about it when it happened. So, and Chris, he's a very intelligent kid. It was actually not like an average school. It was some kind of higher learning school. They do a lot of different stuff there. It was like another regular after school program, but it was for more gifted students, because he's really into aviation. He's actually a pilot. Okay. And he's only 13 years old, and he's been flying for a while now, and he's really good. He's enjoying it. So, but I thought it was great, man. And I've seen Mike's work, become friends with him on Facebook. So I see a lot of his work that he posts up all the time, and he does some nice stuff, man. So, I bet you're real glad to have him on your side working on that project with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Only the best.
Yep. Yeah, he's a phenomenal guy, man. I like the jokes he cracks sometimes too.
Yeah.
I tried to get him on the show because I wanted to have it was a surprise for Chris, because he didn't know we were planning this. And I actually sent him one of my shirts that says "Freedom is for all of us." So he enjoyed that a lot too. But it was a surprise for him to come on. He got the rifle I think it was the day before we had the show, and so yeah, it was nice to put it out there, and just to see all the support that came in for him while we had the show going on as well too. So. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I didn't know he was that young. 13, huh?
Yeah. I want to say he was 12 when he was bullied by the teacher. So,
people.
Mm-hmm.
People, man.
Right. Okay. And I mean, you're in school. As a teacher, you're supposed to leave your personal political opinions out of things. You're supposed to teach the facts. But I can tell you from my son being in high school, who used to get in trouble all the time for correcting his teachers, that school is not what it used to be at all. And they're not really teaching kids the truth anymore about a lot of things. So we actually took our children out of school and homeschooled them till they graduated. So, but I thought the most, I came home one day and my wife was telling me that she had gotten a call from his history teacher, and the history teacher was complaining, saying, "Hey, you need to tell your son to stop correcting me in class." So my wife's first answer was, okay, so her question was, well, was my son correct? Was he right? And the teacher said, well, yeah, but that's besides the point. So my wife said, okay, well, what's besides the point of him being correct? If he's right, isn't that what we're looking for in school? For the kids to have the right answers, the right information? And the teacher was like, well, yeah, but it's going to confuse the other students because that's not the correct answer on the test. Now, here in Virginia, we have this thing called the SOLs. It's the Standards of Learning Test. Now, when schools teach, and that's pretty much all they teach the kids is how to pass these tests. That's 80% of their school time is spent on learning how to pass these tests. And they go through them, I want to say, like every other year all the way throughout school. I think they start them in second or third grade is the first year that they start them on the SOL tests. So my wife's like, so the wrong answer is the correct answer on the test. How is that teaching these kids anything? It's not. So my wife being my wife, she picked up our son from school and she said, you know what, I'm going to take you out to lunch. And she took him out to lunch and she congratulated him for being a good, honest kid and for being smart and, you know, not listening to what the teacher had to say, basically because she was wrong, and yelling at him for not having the wrong answer.
Right. Yeah. Good on you guys, man. Good on you.
It's just ridiculous, you know, and we've had instances like that too in the past, where he'd get in trouble at school because he had this kid, for some reason, this kid had it out for my son, and he always tried to pick fights with my son every chance he could get. And my son, he's always been a big kid. I mean, right now he's 6'4", you know, 260 pounds, you know. I have to look up to him. He's always been a big kid. So, and he's known how to defend himself. And we've always told him, if you have to protect yourself, do what you have to do to protect yourself. Don't let somebody bully you. Don't let somebody beat you up, no matter what.
Right.
You know, don't go overboard with it. Knock them down, get them out of your way, get them to stop trying to attack you, but protect yourself, defend yourself. So he always got in trouble for that. And every time he would get in trouble for that, my wife, again, she would always take him out to lunch and say, look, you did the right thing because you were defending yourself. So don't ever let anybody tell you you're wrong for doing that.
Sounds like some good parenting, man.
So
good business.
Yeah, I mean, the way we were raised as kids, I mean, because we both grew up in Massachusetts, and back then in the 90s and in that era, it was, so I've been told that it was the town with the highest reported crime rate in the country at that point. So, I mean, the crimes could be anything from little tiny things to huge things, but we grew up around gangs, you know, and stuff like that, drugs, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we've been through a pile of shit to get to where we're at now in life. And, you know, we don't want our kids to think that, you know, you can just be a pushover and get by, because that's just not how it works. Stand up for yourself, learn things, seek out knowledge, because knowledge is power, and just make sure you're right before you do something.
Solid, man. That is 1,000% solid.
So, yeah. I mean, that's, I had a long life learning that stuff for myself as well, you know, coming from where I came from. You know, I've been in the dumps. I've been in the bad areas. You know, I'm not afraid to go places. I remember when we first moved down to Virginia, and we were looking for a place to stay, and I was working with this guy, and we were driving around somewhere. I was like, so what's up with this neighborhood over here? Let's go in here. And he's locking the door. He's like, you don't want to go in there. That's the ghetto. You know, and I'm pulling in there, and I'm looking around. I'm thinking to myself, man, if this was the ghetto, this is beautiful. You know, I said, you ain't seen the ghetto yet, man. Let me take you back home with me for a couple days.
The ghetto, right.
I was like, people's versions of the ghetto. I'm just like, how were you raised? Where do you live to think that this looks, you know, the neighborhood that we went through that he called the ghetto, to me looked like a nice blue collar neighborhood, you know, compared to where I came from, you know. So I'm just like, man, sweet. All right, I'll move here. It's right up my alley.
Different perceptions.
Yeah, right. Perception is the world. You know what I mean? So like, but all right, we're up to our 2-hour mark. Katie, you're a phenomenal man. I tell you what, I am so glad to know you. And I'm honored that you came on tonight. This conversation that we had tonight was an excellent conversation, man. I love listening to you speak. You speak from the heart. You have a lot of passion, and you definitely don't lack conviction in what you are and what you do. So, you know, I give you props for that, man. You are a man among men, in my opinion. So,
all right, man, I appreciate the kind words and allowing me to speak to your audience and reaching out and And I'm no different than you, man. So you can only, what they say, real recognize real, right?
Right.
So,
you got it.
appreciate the kind words, and I'm throwing them right back at you.
All right. Awesome. Well, if you're ever in Virginia, you can come on over, man. We'll have some barbecue. We'll shoot some steel, man. You know, mi casa, su casa, brother.
All right. I'm going to take you up on that.
Right on. Well, you do that.
Okay.
Well, we got each other's numbers, so we know how to get in touch.
Yes, sir.
And my understanding, just before you go, I want you to plug where everybody can find you at.
Oh, just the real NOC, like on the screen, on all your social media platforms. Instagram, you will need the underscore, the real underscore NOC, but it's the real NOC on all the social media platforms, or you can just simply type in Kevin Dixie and I'll pop right up.
All right, right on. Well, I want you to go down and try to see. I want Chico Wise, you guys to get together. Chico's a good dude. He's a single dad raising his son, and he's doing a phenomenal job with his son. I'll tell you what. I give, Chico Wise is a man after my own heart. I tell you that. But if you guys can get together, I'd definitely like to see you guys get together because he thinks a lot about you, man. He thinks you're a really good guy, and he really would like to meet you.
All right, we'll make it happen. I appreciate the kind words too, sir. Mr. Chico.
Right on. All right, everybody. That's the show tonight. Thanks for watching. Y'all have fun.
All right, guys. See you later.